for the 43rd and final time of the year. Welcome back to Tier 2 Talk, the Australia Championship. Kim McKenna, your host, welcoming you back in for our last episode of the year. It's been a long road. It's been 12 months of doing this. We started this back in January 31st. It's now December 10th. I'm recording this. And yeah, it's the grand final wrap-up show, the Australia Championship wrap-up show, the end-of-year show. Like, it's crazy that's comes to this. I'm looking forward to the break. I'm looking forward to just de-stressing from football, even though they just announced all the NPL fixtures yesterday. But welcome back, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. Hopefully the weather is doing good wherever you are. Summertime now. It was hot over the weekend, but I was down in Melbourne, so a little bit cooler changed, unlike the 40 degrees we had up in Sydney, but the sun is shining here today. So hopefully it is also doing that wherever you are listening. Thank you again for listening. I appreciate everything you guys have done for us over the past 12 months. We'll get into that a bit later in the episode. But in this episode, we'll just recap the Australia Championship Grand Final in where South Melbourne were crowned the inaugural winners. The Hellers winning their 5th national title. Realistically, was it going to be anybody else? Hellers, they were always pushing for a national second tier, always pushing to be back on the national stage. And when they finally got back there, they took their chance. So we'll get more into that game. We got some post-match interviews with Sinisa Kahazic, the manager of South Melbourne, Marko Jankovic, the captain, MVP of the grand final, and goal scorer in the grand final. So we'll chat to him. Had about a 2-minute conversation with him, and Namuel Banana, who had barely any voice. You'll hear a bit later on, had barely any voice, and he was able to chat to us about what it meant to win the Australia Championship. So that'll be just in a little bit, only a shorter episode today, not too much to talk about as we wrap up here. We'll look at the one grand final. We look at a quick thoughts on my Australia Championship thoughts. We'll do more at the start of 2026 when we can have more time to decompress and really look back over the Australia Championship. I'm sure there'll be more numbers, stats that come out over the next month or so that we could really talk about the success and failures of the Australia Championship. But I found some notes of mine that I read out at the start of October and my hopes for it. So now we're 2 months down the track from those notes, and we'll kind of assess what worked, what didn't work, wrap up this season, and we'll see it next year. So we'll get into it. With our grand final preview, as I mentioned, South Melbourne 2-0 winners on the day against Marconi Stallions, and it was their high-flying, star-studded signing of Manny Aguek, who opened the scoring just 11 minutes in. It was a flurry of chances for South Melbourne in that opening 20 minutes. They came out of the gates really strong, the Hellers, and they pushed Marconi to the limits, and they got the reward. So Manny Aguek snatched on the loose ball about halfway, raced away, used his blistering speed to get past Anton Milinaric, is probably one of the best defenders in the championship, and Manny Aguek just blew right past him. And what I thought was interesting, and it shows a high-quality striker there, is that instead of going cross-body and the way that James Hilton thought he was going to go, he blasted near post into the roof of net, gave the Hellers the 1-0 lead, gave the active support the boost they wanted, lifted the grand final up to life. And yeah, it was a great start for South Melbourne. And then literally, I think it was 5-8 minutes later, corner kick for South Melbourne, and Marko Jankovic, the captain, rose high, headed the ball nicely into the far side corner, the left-hand side corner. And it was 2-0 for South Melbourne very quickly, and it looked like it was going to be a runaway for South Melbourne. I only predicted this being 2-1. I didn't think it was going to be a blow-away game, but in that moment, at 2-0 down for Marconi, you thought this could get ugly, could be 3 or 4. Now, South kind of slowed down. Marconi kind of tried to pick up the pace, tried to get back into it. They had a few chances at the end of the first half. Some say that they were robbed and that the goal line decision, the ball actually went over the line. I don't think the whole ball went over, and I don't think it was, clear and obvious or undisputable evidence that could overturn that. So you could say, that could have changed the momentum going into halftime. And then really the second half, there wasn't too much to talk about. South Melbourne had a few chances. Marconi pushed late on, but Marconi just never really got going in this one. And I don't know whether it was South Melbourne showing their quality, which we all know they have, or whether it was Marconi just wasn't ready for that kind of intensity. The away trip, the South Melbourne fans being right there, it just never looked right for Marconi. And Peter Kennedy tried with the benches and the subs, but nothing really got going. The one thing I do wonder is Matej Busic. We talked to Sikanis last week about his impact, and he scored the last 2 goals in their last 2 games, so very influential. But then he was dropped to the bench for this grand final, which I thought was an interesting move. So I would have loved to ponder about what that might have been. In terms of other key players missing out, Tasmo Dakotas was missing for Marconi at the back there. I think he might have had an injury. He wasn't even on the bench. He was in the full tracksuit. So whether that could have played an impact as well, but I think obviously I don't think anyone can argue that South Melbourne have been the best team in the championship, undefeated, the only team to do that. The only smudge on their record was the 3-3 draw against Moreton City, which you could argue that they should have won that. They were 2-0 up at the time, and they got pegged back for a 3-3 draw. But again, South Melbourne were the catalyst for a national second year. They've always wanted to be back on the national stage, and they took their opportunity. They're now 5 times champions of Australia, and they deserve it. And everyone that I've met at South Melbourne have seen the hard work that's gone on back there. They deserve it. It started with South Melbourne at Lakeside 2 months ago today, and it ended with South Melbourne with them lifting the trophy. So fair credit to South Melbourne, also credit to Marconi. Again, like Sikena said last week, not many people would have tipped Marconi to get that far. And the way they did, they beat Apia, they beat Moreton City, so they had to do it the hard way. They went the long way, especially after an NPL season as well. It's always going to be tough doing this for so long, especially the high intensity more and more. So fair play to Marconi and really everyone involved with the Australia Championship. The hard work that's gone into this pre-tournament and during the tournament and going to the grand final really paid off. The weather held up at Melbourne for the final. Didn't rain throughout the game, but as soon as the trophy presentation came, wind blew nearly half the stage over, so that was pretty funny. But it was just a great weekend to wrap up the season, and I think everyone couldn't have asked for a better final in terms of the lead up and the build up, and the game itself was pretty good. Got nearly 5,000 fans there, so it was promising signs for the first year of the championship, and I think there's only so much more room to grow into this. It's not like this is, where do we go from here? I think there's a lot of avenues where we could look at what could improve and what we can do from here. So positive signs, and we'll see where it goes into next year. So that's kind of all I have to say about the grand final. Only a short little bit there, but plenty more reactions coming your way now. We'll cut over to our 3 interviews we caught up with post-game after the trophy celebration in amongst it all. So we have Sinisha Kazic up first, then we'll cut to Namuel Bernarda, and then we'll finish off with goal scorer and MVP of the grand final, captain of South Melbourne, Marko Jankovic. So I hope you enjoy those interviews there. Sinisha, congratulations. Well, win for you, man, celebrating everything. Try and put into words what you're feeling right now.
Relief for these people behind me, yeah? It's all for them. It's all for the club. These players deserve it, to be honest. When we started this journey, we said we're the best team. And, it's come true. We were very organised. We knew what we wanted to do every single game. And same thing today. We knew what we wanted from start. And we obviously scored 2 goals. And that was enough to win a game of football.
Yeah, and to talk about that 2 goals, first 20 minutes, you kind of just blitz Marconi. Was that always the game plan to come out strong and really get after them early?
Yeah, the thing is that they didn't. I don't think they ever experienced the intensity and the energy that we can bring. And we were always wanting to get them on transition and break like Manny did for the first goal. But at the same time, we knew on a set piece that we can't hurt them because we have core players and we were very organised and we knew what we wanted to do.
Yeah. To kind of put into words, you're undefeated throughout the whole Australia Championship. You've come away with the trophy. How proud are you of this side and what they've done?
Yeah, deserving. Yeah. Very deserving. I mean, even the game that we played 3-3, we probably should have won it too. But again, if you look at the goals, everything, the way we played, I think we're deserving winners. But again, players, I can't thank them enough. because they are the one that had to put the effort and the energy.
And throughout the week, there was a lot of spotlight on yourself, your history, your path to here now. How rewarding is it for yourself to come into South Melbourne, the club you've adored for years? You've taken them from relegation scrap to now champions of Australia.
Yeah, it's well documented. I wanted to do it for people like me. I was waiting for my chance a long time, and finally it came. Thankfully to some people in the club, but I always never shied away of the risk and reward I can get from this. And luckily enough, the cards were dealt my way, and there you go. I've got a trophy.
And is tonight's party, 26 years in the making? Is it going to be a big one tonight, Lakeside?
I would assume so. I would assume so, yes. And we deserve it, really.
Yeah. Now, well, crazy few minutes celebrating here, crazy 90 minutes. How are you feeling at this moment? Try and put into words.
Man, I'm so happy. It's a big achievement for all of us, not just for the club. It's for all the people that come and support us, for the families, for ex-players, ex-board members, for all of them.
We talked to Sanisha just a few moments ago. Undefeated run throughout this whole Australia Championship. How proud of you as a squad to put that together and be one of the most dominant teams that come away with the silverware?
Crazy. Since we started pre-season, we got a big squad, a strong squad. A lot of quality came in as well. We had the belief. We have the belief that we could do it, and we did it.
To talk about that pre-season, you had a very long NPL season, had a lot of highs, a lot of lows. You've brought all the way back up to the Australia Championship winners now. How rewarding is that as a feeling to go from where you were, say, mid-NPL season to now champions?
Man, pre-season started in November last year, and we just finished it now. So it's so rewarding. Some point during the year, we were really on the mat. We were really deep in the mat, and we turned things around. Because we have good people, and we work really hard as well. So I can't be other thing than proud. I'm so proud, not just of the team, the people that we have in the changing room, and also for all the support as well.
And I talked to Sanisha, this party tonight is going to be 26 years in the making. How big is this party going to be down at Lakeside now?
Look, man, I can't disclose that information. I just hope that I go home back on Monday or Tuesday.
Marco, we talked before this whole Australia Championship started about what this would mean. How special does it feel now that you've actually done it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for me personally, it's a dream come true, to captain this amazing club in this championship and to win is so special. I know the fans feel it, the players feel it, and the whole club does. So, yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Talking about your defensive performance, 3 clean sheets throughout the quarterfinal, semi-final, and now the final. How immensely proud are you of your back line to hold out some of the best teams that has been thrown in the championship?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've proven that over the past few years. We've always had a very solid defence. Obviously, this year in the NPL, we let ourselves down a lot. But, we got Harvey between the 6, saving penalties, saving goals. He makes it so easy for us. But, look, we set up very well, and everyone works hard, not just the back four, everyone does. So, yeah.
Talk about your goal, probably the icing of the cake to walk away with a goal in grand final. How special does that feel?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, yeah. As I said, personally, we've been through some tough grand final losses over the past 3 years. And so for me personally, it's a bit of an exercising of some of the demons that we've had. And yeah, it's what you dream of as a kid, to score a goal in a grand final. And yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. And last question, to get your hands on that trophy after the season you've had, the long season, probably 13 months, I think I've heard, the highs, the lows, everything involved. Just how special is it that you've had your hands on the trophy in the end?
Yeah, it's so special. I mean, the boys have worked so hard and sacrificed so much of their time and effort to go do the trips that we've had and come back. And, we really set ourselves a goal of winning this championship when we started the mini pre-season a few months ago. And yeah, I'm just so happy for the fans. I'm so happy for the club. And yeah, it's an amazing game.
So after hearing the thoughts of those players, we want to congratulate them once again on that amazing achievement and all the hard work they have done and the well-earned break they will have during the kind of few weeks here left in December. But South Melbourne goes straight into that OFC Pro League thing that's starting, I think, either January or February. So it won't be too long that they'll be back in action. Now, last little bit I wanted to do was kind of look at what my hopes were the championship and whether they lived up to the expectations. Now, like I said, we'll do more of this come next year, but just kind of as a quick thoughts, I found this notes. And so my first hope was for the championship was that at the grounds, there was a step up from the NPL match day where it felt like a high level and semi A-League product. And I do believe that. I don't think all the grounds felt like that. Probably Broadmeadow, Sydney United, Heidelberg, you could say, were kind of the ones that you felt that was just kind of your NPL matchup setup kind of thing. Not really much going on in terms of the crowd or the fan activation or anything like that. It was just a different opponent for them and a bigger crowd, but not really much going on there. In terms of the clubs that did definitely step up to the occasion were South Melbourne. That one home game at Lakeside, the opening game was fantastic. West Appia, I was very impressed with their setup. They had the fireworks, they had all the spectacle, big names coming out and doing like pre-match stuff. Sydney Olympic being at Jubilee Stadium, I think the field was one of the best, if not the best, I've seen in the championship. So really big setup there, being at Jubilee there, and especially that South Melbourne game, there was a really big atmosphere for that. Wollongong, probably in between, big crowd, but not too much else going on. That differs from the NPL matchup. And I think Marconi, I'll give them the pass of, stepping up. I think they did well in terms of attracting fans back to the Palace. But really, South Melbourne, Preston, I forgot to mention, Preston were really good as well that one game. And West Appia were kind of the three key clubs that really stepped up and took that opportunity to kind of create that matchday experience that I was hoping for. The next one was Foundation Clubs attract crowds of over 1,000 people for 2/3 of their games, if not all of their home games. And I think that was the case. I think every Foundation Club did that except Sydney United. Now, we've criticised and we talked about Sydney United heavily throughout this championship and what they've gone wrong or what has gone wrong there. So they would think they're the only clubs that didn't attract that. Even Sydney Olympic got over 1,000 every game. Marconi definitely did that. Wollongong probably the only one that I don't know off the top of my head that did that, but I assume so, or if not, they were very close to getting that 1,000 people per game. So I think in terms of crowd numbers, it passed what it needed to for the first year. And for clubs that have been in hiatus and out of the spotlight outside their small communities for years, I think they did well to attract the numbers they did. And I think, like I said, there's always room to improve come next season. Next one was SBS be genuine partners for the game and help in success of the championship. And I think they did exactly that. I think SBS was a great move to put the championship on there. Every time I went on, like SBS On Demand or SBS Main Channel, it was always working, always had the camera angles and setups that were needed. The commentary was great. They had the SBS podcast, the championship podcast as well. So I think that wasn't like Oz Championships doing. I think that was purely SBS to help drive that setup. At the grounds, they always had someone on the sideline doing that. So I do believe that SBS was a genuine, fantastic move as a partner and growing the game and putting, the national spotlight on the Australia Championship. And I think it really helped with the success of this first year, and we'll kind of hopefully get to see what the TV numbers are like over the next few weeks or months ahead and see if it actually, correlates to what I saw and what people saw at home as well. Second last one was police activity and involvement non-existent, and I think that's exactly what happened. I think outside of the first West Appia and Sydney United game, the first game at Leichhardt Oval where I rocked up and there was 18 police officers and I think 10 of them were riot police officers. I think outside of that game, I think I barely saw any police that outside just your two officers walking around. So I think that was good for the game. It didn't attract any bad headlines from fans or anything like that. So that was good in that sense, no negative publicity. And the final one was the semi-finals and finals neutral stadium. Now, this was kind of more of a query I had about how they were going to do that, and we didn't really get too much of an answer. Now, the semi-finals, they didn't put at neutral sites. They put it at Lakeside and Marconi Stadium. The final, I think, was the smart choice to put it at Heidelberg. Now, upset that wasn't Sydney, but I think the main factor that contributed to that was that it was going to be 40 degrees on that Saturday. And I think in terms of playing football and wanting the best football game, 40 degrees is not the weather for that because you have stoppages and water breaks and all that jazz. So I think being down in Melbourne, it was a lot cooler. Heidelberg being a traditional home and hosting, old NSL grand finals and Olympics, Village and all that history that comes along with that, it kind of encompasses nicely with the Australia Championship. It's not, the flashiest stadium by any means, but I think it did the job for the grand final that it needed to do. So I'd still like more questions about how that semi-final decision came around and why we chose Lakeside and Marconi when we said it was going to be neutral. But I think overall, the final being a neutral site was the correct choice, and it just allowed for, no opinions of biasy or favoritism or home ground advantage or anything like that. Now, the last thing I got to do is, wrap up this 2025 season. Like I said at the start of the episode, we started this back January 31st. What you may not know is that I started this when I was living in Orlando, Florida, in America. So basically up until August, any episode you guys listened to was done in America, and I was staying up till, midnight on Tuesdays to get it ready for the 6 p.m. Wednesday Australia time, doing those early interviews at 4 a.m. To get people on the show to try and build this thing, taking calls, staying up late nights, doing all this stuff just to kind of, grow this platform, grow myself, and just kind of keep in touch with Australian football, because at the time I was kind of missing that. Knew the championship was coming up and I wanted to be a part of it. So, it's been a long road. This podcast's been in 2 countries realistically. Like I said, recording in America, then coming home and recording in Australia. Ever since I got back to Australia, we had, I think, a guest on every episode except maybe 3, which is including this one. I think every week we had either a player or a commentator or influencer or someone involved in the episode. We were able to go to the matches, get the post-match thoughts and press conferences and stuff. So I'm just really proud of what Tier 2 has become. It's much more than what I would have thought it would have become when I started this thing and pressed record for the first time back in January. I want to thank everyone that supported me throughout this process, friends, family, everything like that. Because, it's me yapping about football. It saves them from listening to me do this podcast for them for free. I want to thank everyone that's ever listened to an episode, ever shared posts of mine, followed me on Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, anything like that. We're able to rack up, I think, nearly over 800 followers on all accounts in our first year, which is crazy. I remember when we just had, 20 or 30 or 5 listens to an episode. Now we're getting over nearly 100 every episode. So it's been a long road to get here, but it's definitely not the end of the road. It's just, a much needed break. I'm sure everyone has kind of reached that football fatigue from NPL now into the Australia Championship. The A-League's here now, so just get to go back and watch them as a fan and, yell at the Wanderers when they inevitably concede in the 90th minute again and again, like they always do. But it's been a fun year. I'm grateful for the opportunities the Australia Championship has brought to me, everything that has grown from that, and hopefully it'll continue to grow. Hopefully this is just the start of something special for myself, for Tier 2, and my future goals in football. We'll be back in 2026. Don't you worry about that. The exact time and date, I don't know yet. Probably either late January or early February in time for the NPL season, and then we'll discuss what Tier 2 looks like throughout the NPL season. But definitely we'll be back and very heavily in the Oz Championship again next season. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to stay up to date with, when we're coming back and news and posts and everything that we may do here and there over the course of December and January, make sure you're following on Instagram and Twitter at tier2talk_TAC. Feel free to share any of the episodes or catch up on any of the episodes that we've talked about over the last year. We have 43 episodes that you can listen to. You can listen back to the very first one in where I've been told it's not great. But it's we've gone better, which is positive. That I've been told that the first episode is rough. I have to go listen to it during the off season, but definitely a fun ride, one that I wouldn't change for the world. The people I've met over the course of this journey has helped me along the way. Came up and said hi to me at the grounds. Always love chatting football to anyone I can. And yeah, it's been a special ride this year, 2025. One that not to forget, but I'm sure and I'm positive that 2026 will be even bigger for Australian football in general. We've got the World Cup as well, so we might have to do Tier 2 Talk World Cup edition as well. Definitely follow the Socceroos there. I think, on a side note, I think that group is very favourable with USA, Panama, and one of the European countries. I think we got the not the easiest, but a favourable European opponent, especially out of that playoff pot. And then Paraguay and USA, you definitely say that Australia can fancy their chances there. So definitely we'll be talking about World Cup next year, talk about the NPL, as always. We'll talk about the A-League as well, because that grand final will be May. So we'll definitely talk about it all, but don't you worry that come October or September or whenever your championship comes around, we'll be dedicated to that and dedicated to you guys sharing the news and all the information that comes from the Australia Championship. So for the final time for 2025, I've been Kenny McKenna. Thank you, everybody, for all the listens, all the support over the last 12 months. I appreciate it so much. Have a safe and Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's as well. And we'll see you in 2026. So take care, everybody, and bye for now.